If you are just joining us, we are continuing our extensive round-the-clock coverage. The lead story, of course, Retro Girl is dead. We are still awaiting official word from the coroner's office for the details concerning this harrowing tragedy. We plan to continue with our exclusive coverage until that time. Today on the Comic Book Report, Powers, Volume 1 by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Avon Oeming from Dark Horse. Stick around and check it out. Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we are back in the world of Dark Horse Comics, taking a look at a series I have been curious about for some time, particularly as a huge Brian Michael Bendis fan. That's right, I've started Powers and I have a lot of thoughts about it. Before we dive into today's paperback collection though, I do want to shout out Dark Horse Comics for sending over this review copy in exchange for this review. And as always, I would like to mention the channel sponsor, Panel Bound Comics. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can find a link to them in the video description. And if you happen to see anything you like, you can actually use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you do use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission at no additional cost to you. This is a fantastic way to support the channel, and I thank you so much for considering. And now, let's get started with today's review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The comics in this volume were written by Brian Michael Bendis, with art by Michael Avon Oeming. The issues in this volume were initially published by Image Comics beginning in 2000. The edition itself was published by Dark Horse in 2022. The volume itself collects Powers, issues 1 through 11, along with the complete Powers comic strips from Comic Shop News, the Powers coloring activity book, and more extras. And finally, this is a standard size trade paperback with glossy print paper stock, a glued binding, and a total of 464 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first dedicated look at the front cover for today's paperback collection. Yes, this is Powers Volume 1, and while there were smaller trade paperbacks for Powers, this collects, like I said, the first 11 issues of the series, along with a load of extras. As you can see on the cover, we have the silhouettes of our two primary characters, along with the chalk outline of presumably Retro Girl, the recently deceased superheroine. Now, as we transition to the spine of this paperback, we do of course have the Dark Horse logo in the top, followed by the title of the series, Powers. We have the names of our creators, along with a Volume 1, and the written Dark Horse logo along the bottom. We also do have some imagery, the black and the blues as well here on the spine in the background, which I did like to see. I think it accented the spine quite nicely, and it makes it stand out on the bookcase. Now on the back cover of today's book, we do have more of that black and blue kind of color motif. We have a stylized city, which I liked. The title of the book, Multiple Eisner Award Winner. Yes, the most prestigious award in comics. This series won some, it looks like. We have a description about this collection, some reviews, accolades, the Dark Horse logo, things like that. All pretty standard fare for a back cover. Honestly, no complaints from me. Now that we're done with the exteriors, I did want to take a look at this book's binding. So as I mentioned, it is a glued binding, and I have to say the first copy I got of this had pretty flimsy binding. In fact, some of the pages were coming up. This is my second copy, and I'm happy to say the binding is holding much better in this case. I'm not sure if my first copy was anomalous, but something I want to mention with a thinner glued binding like this. Beyond that, though, it was a serviceable binding, not too bad on gutter loss, maybe a couple moments, but yeah. Okay, and with that, we can go ahead and break into the collection proper. We have some title pages, publication information, we even have kind of a chapter notice or break page, all pretty standard fun stuff here. We don't really have an introduction or a table of contents that I see. But before too long, we jump right into the first issue of Powers. Now, I should note, while we do have chapter breaks that do correspond with the issues, we don't actually have the proper covers until the end of the collection, but they do appear to be collected as part of the extras, of which this paperback volume has a generous amount, but more on that in a little bit. So we jump into Powers, and it really is set up like a procedural crime drama. We follow during a kind of hostage negotiation or situation where our primary lead character is going to go in to try to get a kidnapped girl out of her maybe abusive dad's apartment. We find out that he has superpowers and he doesn't want to let anyone in. Well, before long, he ejects into the sky, and our primary lead detective is able to save this young girl. While her father is arrested, he takes her back to the precinct, and he's sort of in charge to watch out for her for an indeterminate amount of time. The young girl herself may be demonstrating some powers. She certainly feels a bit grim and macabre, but she is definitely charismatic and entertaining. Once we get back to the precinct, we're introduced to a couple notable characters, including our lead's new partner. Their dynamic is interesting. They don't get along right away. He's really guarded. She's very assertive, go get him, and he doesn't really want to work with another partner. We're not really sure exactly why he's so jaded, at least initially, but the two of them are paired up, and it's not before too long that we get the call of a dead super. Once they investigate the scene, our first, I believe, issue essentially resolves with the death of Retro Girl, one of the premier beacons of superheroism in this world, and it's a really tragic event. Of course, this kicks off the first major arc here of Powers, where they investigate who killed Retro Girl. From here, the story picks up. We get to see these two partners eventually learn a little bit more about each other and get their dynamic kind of more dialed in. We're also exposed to the broader world of Powers, where we see that, yes, this is a cop drama kind of series, but we're in a world of superheroes. But honestly, the superhero issue is a lot more nuanced than that. There's a lot of real grounded approaches to maybe what a superhero in the real world would look like, and I appreciate that in Powers. There's a lot of like litigation and interesting things set up where people can't impersonate superheroes or play superheroes, and superheroes themselves are kind of taboo in general in the public and society at large, and I thought that was an interesting and novel approach. You can also feel that superhero people have been in the picture for a little while. It's not like a new phenomenon, which I liked. The whole world itself felt very immersive and lived in, and I think that's in large part due to the art from Oeming. Really, really beautiful stuff here. I was introduced to this artist in the pages of Blue Book with James Tynion IV over at, well, Dark Horse as well. But his art here I actually like even more than what I saw in Blue Book. I love the fuller color palette here, the kind of hard outlines on these character models as well. Everything feels very animated and almost cartoonish, but in still a very grim, real way. There's something modernist about the art style, I believe, and overall, I just really like the design aesthetic for this series at large. Now, for my review today, I'm not going bit by bit over every plot point for this first volume. I'm just going to cherry pick a couple key details and moments or arcs I wanted to just expound upon further, and I'm really hoping to encourage anyone who's on the fence, as I had been for many years, to check out Powers. This is a really fun book. I should note as well, this is maybe for a more mature audience. While there isn't any outright nudity, there's kind of risque imaging here and there, but more than that, there's sequences of vulgarity, profanity, blood, violence, things like that. So if these are things that you don't like in your comics or you're a younger reader, as always, reader discretion advised. With that caveat out of the way though, this is one of the most spectacular indie series I've had the pleasure of picking up in some time. I mentioned at the top of this video, if you don't know already, I am a huge Brian Michael Bendis fan, and I know earlier in his career he definitely leaned more crime genre specific and much more adult and indie feeling, and this is definitely in that portion of his career, and it's really magnificent to see. Of course, how he implemented all of those skills into the Daredevil run he did with Alex Maleev, that's my favorite comic book run of all time, and I love seeing another kind of crime detective based series from him here in Powers. I can't wait to see where this series goes. I will admit, at the time of this recording, I am in volume 2 of this series, so I'm still making my way through it, but I'm really enjoying what I'm reading thus far. Back to the story, though, we have our two lead detectives chasing lead after lead. Again, as we're getting introduced to this broader world, they interrogate suspects and other superheroes or villains, trying to ascertain who killed Retro Girl. Ultimately, I believe that's resolved when they find kind of an obsessive, twisted fan who ultimately, did the deed. He's dispatched in a way by another superhero character, but I'll let you get the finer points of that if you decide to read for yourself. How Bendis, though, handles a lot of these interrogations and the overall feel of a cop procedural drama in this visual medium, I was just absolutely amazed by. And obviously that is in no small part due to Oeming yet again. The way he displays a lot of this, we have news bulletins going across the bottom. We have interviews through all these little squares. We have a lot of Bendis's trademark heavy dialogue, which I like to see. The word bubbles can be quite extensive or impressive. While this is not the breeziest read in the world, it is one of the most engaging, like I said, in some time. After the Retro Girl arc, I know we have an issue that has a comic book writer. I think it's Warren Ellis or Garth Ennis. Warren Ellis? I don't know. But he shows up kind of meta-fictionally in the text to be kind of taken on a ride-along with our two detectives there, or at least our lead detective. This was kind of a fun one that poked fun at the comic book industry at large. And before too long, we get into our next arc, which is basically, I think it's called role-playing or something to that effect. And it's about people that dress up as superheroes to play their own kind of, role-playing game, essentially. But they are getting picked off or killed one by one, and it seems like a superhero hate crime. Like I mentioned earlier, dressing up or playing superhero is against the law. These kids still do it because they aspire to be these heroes, and now that you're getting picked off, it's up to the cops to figure out what's going on here. Also, looming throughout this part in the series, we get to know more about our lead character, and we find out that he actually once had superpowers, and that one day they disappeared. And in the remnants of his life post-powers, he does end up becoming a police officer. So he has a lot of ties to the superhuman and supervillain community, and that really makes him an asset in this department. I really loved that wrinkle. It definitely invested me more in this character and his sense of stakes overall with the series. He feels uniquely positioned to handle a lot of these crimes, and how he deals with his own personal loss and navigates all of that, I just find to be fascinating. But yeah, the second story arc with role-playing was quite fun, and that really is most of the meat or subject matter story-wise for this first volume. After that, we do have a huge slew of extras. Like I said, we have some comic strips, we have some one-off little mini comics as well. We have some script pages, we have those covers that I mentioned, we have some behind-the-scenes art, things like that. Certainly the extras in this trade paperback are exceptional. In fact, I would say they are one of the selling points for this collection by and large. You can see me flipping through the extras here. Again, I'm not even doing it justice. I'm flipping through a lot of pages, but a huge batch of the pages at the end of this volume are all extras. So if you like Powers or you want to check it out, this is a great way to be introduced to the series and also have that wealth of extras that just ground you in the world and what went into it and all things of that ilk. Honestly, reading this first volume makes me wish I had an opportunity to pick up the hardcover editions while they were still in print, and you never know. Maybe we'll see something like that down the line yet again. But again, this paperback was really well constructed. Other than that brief note on the binding, I'm really happy to see everything it includes. It felt like a very substantial read, especially for the price point, and overall, I had so much fun. But of course, as always, these are just a couple of my thoughts on Powers. I would love to hear yours in the comments. And now, all that's left to do is to give this collection a grade. For easily the most fun I've had with a crime genre comic in some time, The Comic Book Report is happy to give Powers Volume 1 by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Avon Oeming from Dark Horse an A. While this edition went light on the glue in the binding, I found the rest of the collection to be so well curated. The wealth of extras and beautiful representation of those first 11 issues was a masterstroke. The characterizations are rock solid, the dialogue incredible, the world immersive, and I can't wait to sink my teeth into more of this incredible series. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, probably the most fun I've had with an indie title in a hot minute, and that is saying something. But again, these are a couple thoughts on Powers. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you read Powers? Are you a fan of Brian Michael Bendis or Michael Avon Oeming? Let me know all of that below. Let me know what other comic book recommendations you have. A huge thank you again to those at Dark Horse for sending over this review copy in exchange for this honest review, and for all of you, as always, for taking this journey right along with me. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave a like, those comments we talked about, and maybe share this video with a friend. Thanks everyone, bye.